Moving verily along here, we've got the string compare example. That one's right here. Now, do remember the odd part about string compare strcmp is that it returns 0 if true. There is zero difference between the two. It is -1 or +1 if it is a greater or less than string. And that is bonkers in like all other compares that you have done, right? Because it's analogous to a Boolean operation that returns 1 for false and 0 for true. It's very different. It's something you just have to be aware of. So what I'm suggesting here in this particular piece of code is this time around we need the CString library instead of CC type. And most of that is, well, all of that is because we are using the strcmp, and that function is part of the CString library, not the compare type. So here, we'll essentially just highlight this portion right here. This is where on lines 30 through 35, we are doing our comparison. And you can see on line 30, for example, how it is that string compare works. So what we're doing is we're saying if our string compare function returns 0, so that's the equals 0, what we're saying is that the string it is that I have entered and the string it is that we are comparing it to are equal. So the else if, and we're just going to check for each one of these different part numbers. Well, it's both of these part numbers. So if we go ahead and run this, again, you're going to say enter the part number of the stereo you wish to purchase. So this is 5147-29 capital A. Now, again, I argue in better user design, if this was not a 37-line bit of code, as an example, what I would do is say, okay, you know that the last character is an uppercase character. So after you are getting your user input from the user, go ahead and do 2 upper on, you know, the 8th character in your character array. Here, on the other hand, I'm not going to do that. So when I put in 5147-29A, it's going to say that is not a valid part number. And the real question here is, why is that? You have probably seen it's because I didn't read the part number correctly. It is not 5147, it is S147. So what we do know is that neither of these two portions of our if-else or our if-else-if statement evaluated as 0 because 5 is in fact not an S. So if I run this again, this time we'll do it with S147-29A, and in fact we do come up with the proper price to part number comparison there. So remember, again, this one, the strcmp string compare, is not in CC type. It is in C string. My suggestion to you is here inside of C++277, where you are insulated from, you know, mistake, essentially, because again, we're a school, not a production environment, is what I would do, and I mean this honestly, and we don't see it here because I remove them, you know, in between testing and recording of movies like this, is I actually have at the very bottom of my my includes, so I always have IOStream, I always have namespace. I usually just leave a bunch of commented out includes. So I always have string in there. I always have CMath in there. I always have IOmanip in there. And for here forward, I include CC type and C string in there, even though I know that in chapter 11, the next one, we are actually going to abandon the C string for the rest of the semester, it turns out. So I don't mind if you leave those includes in there. I think it's better if you comment them out, because the whole point of C++ is to have, relatively lean, efficient code. That's the whole point of having, our previous chapter, chapter 9, on the pointer, is lean and efficient running code. But I think leaving them in there so that, if you're using string compare and you forget that it's in C string and not CC type, you can just go in there and in 2 keystrokes you can get that to work again. I don't think that that is a programming foul in any way, shape, or form in 37 lines of code. I think that's perfectly okay.